full of ripe, juicy bits bursting with the taste of morning itself. Minute Maid home squeeze style. Squeeze the day.
Lars Larson, only on Coin 6 News. People you know.
An Aggie farewell. The first funeral is held for a victim of the Texas A&M bonfire accident. It's not a movie. An apparent telephone hoax causes a security scare on Air Force One. Angry Egyptians keep up their denials that one of their pilots could have caused the Egypt Air crash. And more women joining in the rage on America's highways.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
And good evening. There has been another death in that bonfire collapse in Texas this week. News of the latest victim comes as engineering professors today said they tried to warn Texas A&M students the design of the bonfire contained serious flaws. Maureen Maher has the latest from College Station, Texas, where today the goodbyes began.
It was the first of a dozen funerals in Aggie land.
May our prayers go out to this family now.
Sophomore Nathan Scott West was killed with 10 other students on Wednesday after one of the longest-standing college traditions came tumbling down. A 12th student, Timothy Curley Jr., died late Friday night. The legend behind the Texas A&M bonfire is as long as the Tower of Logs is tall. For 90 years, it has been the students who have built the stack here on campus. The six-story structure is made up of some 7,000 logs, doused with fuel and set ablaze to symbolize the Aggies' burning desire to beat the University of Texas in one of football's oldest rivalries.
And it's now turned into an act of kinship, an act of love, and an act of friendship.
Aggies from all over make the annual Thanksgiving weekend pilgrimage for the game. This year, many have come early.
We just needed to see this. We spent so much of our life here. This is a very, very serious part of our life.
Red, lead,
The team practiced today for the game, which will still be played next Friday, but players know this time it will be different.
Well, I think the team feels a responsibility to these young people who actually were involved in a project that was symbolic of the spirit of Aggie land.
A project so rich in history, its lessons last a lifetime.
I've gone through the past 4 years working on this thing, and I can honestly say I go to class during the day and I get my education out here.
An education for all ages, that traditions are worth holding on to, long after those who upheld them are gone. Maureen Maher, CBS News, College Station, Texas.
Some tense moments aboard Air Force One today. Journalists traveling with the president in Europe were asked to look for anything unusual on board after a threat was called to the Secret Service. White House correspondent John Roberts has more on that and the aftermath of the president's rough reception in Greece.
Shortly after the president left Athens, the Secret Service received what it termed a threat over an unsecured telephone line. The passengers aboard Air Force One, including senior White House staff and a camera crew from CBS News, were asked to check their carry-on luggage for anything suspicious. They described the search as low-key, and by the time the plane had touched down in Italy, it was determined the threat was a hoax. It was the first time, however, that administration officials can remember having to check luggage in flight, and the final act in what had been a massive headache for the president's security team. As cleanup crews worked overtime to repair the damage from last night's chaotic demonstrations in Athens, President Clinton was visiting the ruins of another century. With daughter Chelsea in tow, he toured the Acropolis and reflected on the worst violence to accompany a presidential visit since he took the oath of office in 1993. Many Greeks are angered over the president's handling of the Kosovo crisis, but the roots of anti-American sentiment go far deeper than that. All the way back to 1967 and U.S. support for a military junta that took power in Greece. Hoping to mend fences, Mr. Clinton today all but apologized for that support.
When the junta took over in 1967 here, the United States allowed its interest in prosecuting the Cold War to prevail over its interests, I should say its obligation to support democracy, which was, after all, the cause for which we fought the Cold War. It is important that we acknowledge that. When we think about that history...
With only 13 months left in his presidency, Mr. Clinton is in a race against time to mold his foreign policy legacy. Before he leaves office, he hopes to set the future course for the Middle East and Northern Ireland, and finally bring peace and stability to this region, a task his closest advisors say has been one of his biggest frustrations. John Roberts, CBS News, Athens.
2 Saudi Arabian students charged racism today in an America West Airlines security incident. After their plane made an emergency landing yesterday in Columbus, the pilot ordered passengers evacuated, saying the Saudis acted suspiciously when trying the cockpit door. The Saudis claim they were humiliated by the FBI solely because of how they look. Nearly 3 weeks after the crash of Egypt Air 990, none of the human remains pulled from the wreckage has been identified. While families of the victims deal with that frustration, family members of the plane's co-pilot, who investigators suspect was on a suicide mission, took their frustration and anger to reporters today. Ellen Pizzi has more from Cairo.
The American investigators may regret the leaks, but as far as the Egyptian public is concerned, the damage has been done. Virtually no one here believes the suicidal co-pilot theory, and his family has gone on a counter-offensive. To discount rumors that Gamil al-Batouti may have been after insurance money, the family took cameras on a tour of his country assets. This was to be the co-pilot's retirement home, a 2-story villa outside Cairo. Now you've seen his children, his homes. There's nothing else you can say about Gamil al-Batouti, his son Karim says. In short, there's nothing wrong with him. What has rankled most here is the suggestion by investigators that al-Batouti's apparent uttering of a prayer that is used 100 times a day by Muslims means he was about to crash the plane. Much of the blame is being laid on the foreign press.
If the investigation finishes and they say Gamil Batouti, who is a very good man, did not do it, is anybody from you going to come back to help us to go and get our dignity back?
And in that, they have the backing of the Egyptian government.
The media, I think, is not giving everyone time to reflect, to investigate without any pressure.
The Egyptians are deeply proud of their history and culture, and many feel they are being taken for granted by the West. Even though Egyptian officials are an integral part of the investigation, there remains a widespread belief here that if the results don't suit U.S. policy, the whole truth may never be known. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Cairo.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, road rage. It is not just men anymore. Also, from coast to coast, a new crackdown on the homeless. And how music hath charms to tame the squalling babe.
What sets some people apart gives them the confidence to succeed on their own terms. It's no secret, it's the Wall Street Journal. Now you can have that confidence delivered for 13 weeks at just $36.75, just 57 cents a day. That's a 25% savings off our regular rate, which makes now a great time to try this limited time offer. Call now, 800-603-1600. That's 800-603-1600 for the Wall Street Journal.
The jobs of tomorrow are here. Thousands of them waiting to be filled. But you have to know the fields they're in, and you have to have what it takes to master those fields. Because you can't get the jobs of tomorrow until you get the skills of today. Start by calling ITT Technical Institute. We'll send you an informative brochure on tomorrow's careers and what it takes to get them. Call 1-800-ITT-TECH.
You can't control Mother Nature. Experts report that weather patterns are changing fast, making it harder for anyone to say, a flood can't happen to me. In fact, in the last few years, floods have hit all 50 states. Thousands of victims learned too late that homeowners insurance doesn't cover floods, but national flood insurance does. Even weather experts can't outsmart Mother Nature. So call your insurance agent, or for free information, call this number now.
The pressure of balancing work and a household is causing many women to snap behind the wheel. Jeffrey Kaufman tells us about the growing concern over women and road rage.
It was no accident.
There was a body laying on the ground, bleeding.
This death in suburban Birmingham last week came not from cars smashing, but from drivers clashing.
Motivation appears to be road rage.
According to police, it was a classic cat-and-mouse game of tailgating, lane changing, slamming brakes. Except that in this case, Both cars were driven by women. Gina Foster, a mother of 3, shot dead at close range by Shirley Henson, a mother of 1, now facing murder charges.
Things continue to crawl along, heading for the Woodrow Wilson.
Anyone who drives to work, and most Americans do, knows that in the last few decades, cities have sprawled and commuter traffic has stalled. Just getting to work has become as stressful as work itself.
The reason I stopped you, ma'am, actually...
It's not clear whether aggressive driving really has increased or just our awareness of it. Road rage used to be a man's game, but according to police, not anymore.
About 50% of the stops that I make that involve aggressive driving and serious aggressive driving, borderline road rage, a lot of them, about 50% are with women.
Barbara Curbo knows a lot about the pressure-filled life of the modern woman as a mother and a professor of behavioral science. Curbo studied 200 women who commute and found that many admitted to driving aggressively, yelling or gesturing, and taking frustrations out on other drivers.
There's just this kind of buildup of all of these things you have to do, and then maybe they have to get home also and start dinner. So it's just trying to balance all of the pressures in this kind of moment of time on the way home.
And with traffic increasing, so are the frustrations. Frustrations that can be deadly. Jeffrey Kaufman, CBS News, New York.
A random attack on the streets of New York has Mayor Giuliani scrambling to deal with the city's homeless problem. Just how well he deals with it could have an impact as far away as the Golden Gate. As Randall Pinkston tells us, cleaning up the streets can be a very messy venture.
New York's polished new image as a low-crime mecca was tarnished this week when a lone assailant attacked a woman with a brick. That random act of terror made the headlines and raised new fears about the homeless.
Because of what happened to the girl, I think that now I'm just going to be on the lookout.
The assailant is still at large. No one knows, but it is assumed he is homeless. New York's mayor promised tough action.
Streets do not exist in civilized cities for the purpose of people sleeping there. Bedrooms are for sleeping.
City police insist they're not launching a new crackdown on the homeless, but say sometimes arrests are warranted. Homeless advocates say that's not any kind of solution.
If you just call in the cops and think that somehow you're going to sweep the homeless away and not deal with the underlying issues, we're not going to make very much progress.
But increasingly, communities are looking at ways to get the homeless off the streets.
Do you know it's illegal to be camped here?
San Francisco's mayor took political heat when a plan to seize push carts backfired. Advocates insist the real danger isn't the homeless. It's the unsupervised mentally ill.
There are some people who are chronically mentally disabled, and they need supportive housing with supportive services. But they're a minority of the homeless population.
And for the majority of the homeless, advocates say economic opportunity is what's needed. A chance to join the mainstream with a job and a home. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
There is more to come on tonight's CBS Evening News. Weeks after the fiscal new year, Congress approves the new federal budget. And bootleg movies delivered by the internet.
Thanks, Shirley. You know, Tony, I've been thinking about life insurance again. We pay more for this coffee than we would for extra coverage.
She's right. You know, you can get good life insurance for 39 cents a day.
Probably from someone I never heard of.
Mutual of Omaha. United of Omaha, one of the Mutual of Omaha companies, has a plan where your payments never go up and your benefits never go down.
Good company. But I bet you still have to take a physical.
No. And before you ask, you won't be turned down and your coverage can't be canceled.
How much? And don't talk to me in units.
No units. With this, you know what you're getting. Up to $20,000 worth of coverage.
What, do you work for him, Cheryl?
Actually, we bought the plan before Harry passed away. My husband had this great gift for always listening to me.
Smart guy, huh, Tony?
Call 1-800-428-0400 for your free information. That's 1-800-428-0400. Call now, 1-800-428-0400.
Problems recording your favorite TV show? Let the VCR Copilot take over. The easy, fast way to record your favorite shows. No confusing menus or complicated manuals. Just pick the channel you want to record. And with the Copilot, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, pick the day. 2, set the start time. 3, set the stop time. That's it. Records the exact time and day you choose. Anybody can do it. Never miss a show again. The VCR Copilot.
Available at Big Kmart, Fred Meyer, Walgreens, and participating Ace Hardware.
Divisional duels dominate. The Pats fight back against the Gophers. The
Seahawks streak in the KC where the Chiefs are unbeatable. Sunday on CBS.
Awaiting President Clinton's signature on his return from Europe, the better late than never fiscal year 2K budget. Mr. Clinton today called the deal a victory for the American people. Lisa Hughes tells us what Congress gave and took away.
And the report is passed.
It took weeks of stopgap measures to keep the government running and countless hours of haggling and horse trading. But finally, last evening, Congress passed a $385 billion spending package, nearly 2 months after the fiscal year began.
Regardless of how this agreement was reached, we're here, and it will be in law.
Negotiation over the past few weeks was often crippled by a host of contentious issues. Finally, the White House and lawmakers agreed to pay the United States billion-dollar debt to the UN, restore money cut from Medicare by previous budgets, beef up education and community-based crime programs, and impose a small, across-the-board government spending cut. Despite that cut, this bill shatters spending limits Congress imposed on itself just 2 years ago. Some lawmakers were furious.
We are spending the money like drunken sailors.
In the 11th hour, Midwestern lawmakers threatened to hold up the vote and shut down the government over price protections for their dairy farmers, only giving in after leaders promised a full hearing on the issue next year. Even then, they weren't happy.
Permit me to be skeptical until we see the product. The proof is in the pudding.
And that's just one of the issues lawmakers put off until they come back next year. By then, it will be an election season when compromise on the Hill may be worth less than votes from back home. Lisa Hughes, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Today, there's a gap in the ranks of our country's armed forces. Cheryl Atkinson tells us there's no one left in uniform now who served on active duty during the last World War.
16,112,000 Americans served in the military in the course of World War II. One of them, Coast Guard Captain Earl Fox, who at age 80 holds the remarkable distinction of being the last active duty veteran of World War II. He retired yesterday, reluctantly.
It's time to go. There comes a time, I would love to stay. To be perfectly honest with you, I did ask if I could stay.
Fox was in the Navy, commanding boats and submarines in the South Pacific during the Second World War, leading men old enough to be his father.
We had been in a tight spot and we had lost some people, and I asked a chief petty officer, should we do this, do something? And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, I don't know, Mr. Fox, you're in command. And all of a sudden I grew up.
He was decorated with a Silver Star, left the Navy after the war, went to medical school, and was a civilian physician until the Coast Guard lured him back to service in 1974. By then, he was 55, quitting time for many.
I really love what I do.
He stayed in for a full 25 years more, a flight surgeon. His long tour of duty was praised by President Clinton this past Veterans Day.
I think he has earned his retirement. But, Captain, on behalf of a grateful nation, we say thank you for your service.
From duty in the jungles of New Guinea to training recruits for the 21st century, he's sad to see it end.
It does make you choke up inside. It's a way of life.
But no regrets from Captain Fox, whose quiet patriotism has spanned more than half a century, the last man in uniform from the World War II generation. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington.
Bill Crawford, the creator of this broadcast and a true pioneer of radio and television journalism, is dead. Behind the scenes for some 35 years, from the legendary radio days of Murrow through the Walter Cronkite era, culminating with the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather, Crawford helped build CBS News. Rather this evening called Bill Crawford the nicest tough guy in the business who had incredibly high standards. Bill Crawford died last night in Washington. He was 70 years old.
Imagine a vacuum cleaner that does everything for you. The incredible Phantom Lightning. It climbs your stairs. It devours your dirt in a single scoop.
From your carpet to bare floor in a single swoop.
Zoom, the power just sucked it up off the floor.
Imagine 2 cyclones of dirt-devouring power that capture everything.
It took out cat hair, horse hair, fiber that I didn't know grew in rugs.
Without bags. Its easy bin pops out, empties out. Its certified HEPA filter helps you breathe easier. Its trunk packs every dirt-seeking tool you'll need. The incredible Phantom Lightning. It does it tall. It does it small. It does it all.
It's lightweight, it hugs the stairs, incredible cleaning power. It did everything but talk.
Hard to believe.
Call for a free video of the incredible Phantom Lightning. Don't just imagine what it can do for you. See it in your own home. Call now.
Have you ever found yourself in the dark trying to fix something? Then you know how hard it is to do some jobs without light in the right place. That's why you need the Craftsman Driver Light, available only from Sears. The Driver Light is a screwdriver that focuses a beam of light right where you need it. It allows you to see what you're doing, even in tight, dark spaces. The Driver Light has a magnetic shaft, which holds the bits firmly in place, and comes with 2 sizes of slotted bits, 2 Phillips bits, and 5 socket bits, all in a convenient storage case. At $19.99, it's a great value and makes a terrific gift. There are so many jobs you'll want to use the Driver Light for, like under-the-hood car repairs, computers, and home electronics, or whenever there's no good light source available. The Driver Light is made in America, and like other Craftsman hand tools, is guaranteed forever. Light up your dark jobs with the Craftsman Driver Light. Order a Driver Light today.
Call 1-800-348-1600 to order your Craftsman Driver Light for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. Call now.
Senator McCain, he's surging in New Hampshire and Iowa. How does he plan to give George W. Bush a run for his money? Bob Schieffer will ask him on Face the Nation Sunday.
Coming soon to a theater near you is fast becoming an obsolete phrase in the computer age. Internet pirates are debuting movies on the web, sometimes long before the films open in theaters. Stacy Tisdale of CBS Market Watch raises the curtain on pilfered films in this Eye on the Web report.
James Bond may beat the bad guys in his latest film, but there is one villain 007 can't seem to beat: the Internet.
Movies that are being released by studios to reviewers, that there are digital copies being released, and those are finding their way onto the net.
The problem is Internet piracy. Newly released films are appearing on the Internet weeks before they appear in movie houses.
It is a hot commodity, and it's difficult to to prevent things like this from happening.
You have a name? James Bond. The James Bond film isn't the first blockbuster movie to be pirated. This summer, The Phantom Menace and The Matrix also debuted on the web. But experts say the quality of films pirated on the web isn't very good.
People will look on the internet so that they can find the James Bond movie, but then when, if they do find it, they'll watch it and be probably very disappointed.
But quality may not be a problem for long. A few weeks ago, computer hackers cracked a DVD privacy code allowing any movie that comes out on DVD to be posted with better quality on the internet. Still, some fans say they will never take to cyberspace.
It's a very different experience to watch a movie in the theater, especially on opening night.
Many think that screen size does matter when it comes to the movies. Stacy Tisdale, CBS Market Watch, New York.
Next up on the CBS Evening News, it's all happening at the zoo. Opening day for a pair of pens.
Now celebrate the 60s with this incredible photo collection and music CD, free from Time Life. Here's how.
Larry King for Time Life.
Here's a photo of me with my gang, the Warriors, back in 1950. Photos like this always bring back memories of my years in Brooklyn, but let me tell you, this new book by Time Life, The 50s, really takes me home. It's part of our American century, a decade-by-decade scrapbook of our lives. What we drove, how we looked, who made us laugh and captured our hearts. It's all we experienced together. It's just incredible. Whether you're 19 or 90, you're part of this story, and Time Life captured it all. Turning the pages, you'll experience what life was like and see how we came to be who we are today. Each decade is filled with treasures only Time Life could bring you.
Call now to order the 50s for just $9.99. Use your credit card and get the 60s free, plus a free CD of 33 greatest hits of the 60s. That's a $55 value for just $9.99.
If the 50s defined our innocence, the 60s saw us come of age. And it's all here, from the voices and the struggles to the movies and the music that started a revolution.
Call now to order the 50s for just $9.99. Use your credit card and get the 60s free, plus a free CD of 33 greatest hits of the 60s. And there's more. Call right now and get a free commemorative calendar. Then examine other decades.
Folks, our American century is a collection you'll treasure for years to come. I know I will. So call now.
Call 1-800-525-7755 to order our American Century for $9.99 plus $3.99 shipping. Use your credit card and get the 60s free plus a free CD. Call right now and receive your free commemorative calendar or send check or money order to our American Century, Department 5, Richmond, Virginia.
Treating cancer with gene therapy? It worked for Joyce.
This patient has been tumor-free for close to a year.
So what is gene therapy? Is this the future of cancer treatment, even prevention? Find out when our special Countdown to 2000 series continues Monday on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
There is a new look for an old friend at the Smithsonian in Washington. Henry, a giant mounted elephant, is back on the job, greeting visitors to the National Museum of Natural History. After months of building a new display, the world's largest mounted animal now stands among the plants and animals of his native Africa. For 40 years, Henry had stood on a plane platform. It wasn't quite pandemonium at the Atlanta Zoo today, but a steady stream of visitors did turn out for the premiere of Lun Lun and Yang Yang, a pair of pandas from China. 15,000 visitors were expected, but rain kept some folks away. The bears will be in Atlanta for 10 years, and zookeepers hope they will start a family. On our CBS Health Watch, the care and well-being of adorable young humans. Barry Peterson in Tokyo tells us about a new music CD that keeps baby quiet and keeps mom in a good mood.
There is nothing to match those first joyous moments and the first sounds of life. But the screams after that are not always so wonderful. But the Japanese have come up with an answer that is, quite literally, music to babies' ears. The first baby CDs hit the shelves about 4 years ago, but this recent release is a really big hit, selling 10 times more than all the others, and going by the catchy title, Whoa, the Baby Stopped Crying. This 6-month-old baby cries and cries when Mom is not around. So Mom tried the CD. And within minutes, the baby was sleeping like, well, a baby. And it was babies who inspired the idea. Japanese researchers put a microphone inside a womb. As a baby develops, they say, it begins hearing muffled sounds from the outside world. One test showed that gentle music can even calm the unborn child. Composer Junichi Kamiyama took the step from research to recording, mixing the sounds of 40-some instruments in a very particular way. So with this bit of high tech, moms can have the joy of motherhood, the pleasure of watching their babies grow, and if their babies like this kind of music, moms get something they never expected, a little peace and quiet. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Tokyo.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Thank you for joining us this Saturday evening. I'm Russ Mitchell, CBS News, New York. Good night.
Blazers by topic. If you have any questions or comments,